Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Stephen Willis here, right here with the POMcast on the Positively Ole Miss Network. Thank you for joining us. It's kind of a big show planned. We're going to talk about the postponement of the Mississippi State-Auburn game, the potential postponement of Alabama and LSU, and why Ole Miss should start lobbying now to be the backup for that Masters primetime game on CBS. So that's what we have in store for you today. Now, I personally believe that LSU players went out and purposely caught the coronavirus so they would go down so they could not play Alabama after a bye week. That's just my opinion on that, but that's what I think happened because they knew what was coming. And everybody on CBS was going to be able to see it. True freshman quarterback, bad defense. You're really going to try and power run against Alabama? Les Miles tried that for 10 years. That wasn't going to work. So it was going to go pretty horribly for LSU, and I think the players, not the coaches. I think the players they're giving up on this season. And they want it to end. And a way for it to end is to get the coronavirus. So it also puts into doubt the news that we got like 3 or 4 weeks back from Ed Orgeron saying like 90% of his team had it. I just don't think that was the case. So that's Alabama. LSU is on the brink. Auburn and Mississippi State, I think a similar path is going on there. They're in danger. Auburn and Mississippi State did postpone their game. That game will be made up on December 12th. But, I mean, that's how it goes. Tonight, Maction. Thank goodness. New England won last night, barely. So, I mean, it's all a good thing. Now, we've got Mississippi State playing 2 weeks after the Ole Miss game now. So it is now game 8. And Ole Miss fans have wanted that game to not be the last game of the year for about 7 or 8 years. And now we get to see what it looks like. And we're getting to the point pretty close to where if they're having a COVID outbreak for a couple weeks, the Ole Miss game will be in jeopardy. Because the next game is game 7 and game 9 is the Ole Miss game with no bye week. So the Ole Miss game is 3 weeks away. So if you come down with coronavirus or you have to social distance for 14 days, after the game, next Monday, the Ole Miss game is out for you. So that's the reality of what we're dealing with. And them having a shutdown so early with Auburn right now is problematic. If they do not get this under control, they will be at least severely hampered by COVID. I mean, that's just real. I'm not saying one way or another. But come Monday morning, if you get COVID, you are out for the Ole Miss game, starting with that test. The ones that are down right now will probably be back for Ole Miss. The ones that are contact tracing, if any of them develop symptoms starting Monday, they will not be back for Ole Miss. So that's just a heads up. to everybody listening. And that goes for Ole Miss as well. Starting with the Monday test after South Carolina, Mississippi State missing is on the table. It is the absolute time to protect the team. Don't go out. Just go home. Just go to the facility. Just go home. If everybody does that, you'll be fine. I mean, you're not going to be able to go home for Thanksgiving because of COVID. Game's on a Saturday. I realize the game's not on Thanksgiving, but you're not going to be able to go home. They're not going to release them that close to a game. And then they have a game the following week. In State's case, they have a game even the following week. So it's all working out. And like I said, we'll get into it next segment about South Carolina and Ole Miss and why Ole Miss should be lobbying to be the backup for Alabama LSU on CBS. I mean, that just needs to happen. Lane Kiffin has done a phenomenal job this year with the challenges of COVID. I mean, he really has. So many schools have so many problems, and he just kind of makes it. He just keeps chugging. You might have 3 players that miss a game because of COVID, but you don't have 20. I think we were down a little bit for Auburn, but it wasn't that much. So Mississippi State and Auburn is postponed. Mississippi State is the outbreak school. Auburn is the victim school in this situation. Alabama and LSU is on the brink because LSU is the outbreak school and Alabama is the victim school for this one. If it gets pushed back, it'll be the last game of the year. And you want to talk about, December 12th, LSU in Florida. So it may just get canceled. I didn't even think about that. If Alabama goes to the SEC championship, there will be no way for LSU to replay that game. I mean, it just hit me. So Alabama could have 9 games going into the SEC championship game. All right, POMcast, segment 1 of the books. Stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
Hey, POMcast, segment 2, right here on the Positively Ole Miss Network. Just want to let you know, if you want to follow the podcast on Twitter, You can follow me at the Stephen Willis or follow the podcast at Old Positively. Also, you can hit me up on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast or join our group at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Positively Ole Miss. Hit the bell for notifications. And, of course, you can follow us on Twitch at, that's right, Positively Ole Miss. It's almost like there's a consistent theme. You can use that as well. Search Positively Ole Miss on all the audio podcatchers. If that is your bag, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Pandora. I think those are the major ones. We're also on Podbean and some of the minor podcatchers. So check yours if you're interested in the podcast. Positively Ole Miss. Search that. And we should come directly up. If we don't, we're probably not there. That's the way that works. Well, anyway, we were discussing in the first segment the two games that are most at risk this week. Mississippi State and Auburn has already been canceled. But the thing we want to focus on is Ole Miss versus South Carolina slipping into the Masters slot, because they have Alabama and LSU currently scheduled there for prime time. That game's going to be at 5 o'clock, directly after the Masters. It's the lead-in of all lead-ins on CBS. The only way that would be better is if the NFL led directly into it. But with CBS, that is a possibility. I mean, if that game gets canceled, let's just look real quick at the choices to replace it. Postponed is Auburn and Mississippi State. That one's out. So there's Arkansas and Florida, which that might. I mean, it's 3-3 and 4-1. Texas A&M and Tennessee. Vandy and Kentucky. Georgia and Missouri. Those are the options. By the way, Ole Miss's line has jumped up to Ole Miss favored by 11. They've gained 4 points since the lines came out Sunday. So it's a 4-point swing. But in doing so, it is the smallest line of the weekend. So it is expected to be the most competitive game. It's already a night game at 6:30 in Vaught Hemingway Stadium. The game, the LSU-Alabama game, is at 5 o'clock because of the Masters. The other night game is on ESPN, who probably will not be willing to give that up. But the SEC game of the week on SEC Network is the Ole Miss South Carolina game. It is scheduled to be the most competitive game of the weekend. Now, will it? Who knows? Who knows if it'll be competitive? But it is scheduled to be that way. So, if you move Ole Miss and South Carolina to that game, you give yourself, for recruiting and everything else, a completely national audience. All the lead-in and everybody watching CBS, the game of the week, it's going to seem special. And in doing that, it'll help with the recruiting. It'll help in the transfer market. It'll help in the grad transfer market. So 2021 will get better than right now. I mean, the exposure you can get from being the backup and getting into that game will be phenomenal. Now, this is all assuming that LSU doesn't pull through. I think they have one quarterback, one tight end. I mean, they're teetering on the edge of SEC limits currently. And if that goes away, CBS will look to fill that, and they'll probably look to fill it with another SEC game. And I am pitching Ole Miss versus South Carolina. It will be the best look at the at recruiting and such that Ole Miss can get. It will basically put jet fuel in their recruiting apparatus. So that's what I'm recommending, because next week Ole Miss plays Texas A&M on CBS. It would be back-to-back CBS games. It's called building a brand, and part of that is playing in the biggest game of the day. If Ole Miss can do that back-to-back weeks, they're going to go into Mississippi State, which should be a win. Then they'll get LSU, which should be a win. So that, on top of winning out, will put them at 5-5 with all the momentum going forward. Give me all the momentum. But that is possible because of that game. If they can be selected as the backup game, I mean, it'll be nothing but good. But they have South Carolina this weekend. We went over that. They have a little bit of a quarterback issue. They said they're going to open up the competition. And, that's probably not good for Colin Hill. But I expect him to run the ball. I mean, they have some pieces. But after seeing them against LSU and against Texas A&M, they have actual problems with certain concepts that will come into play. It's all on film now. Once it's on film, it's over. You can hide your weaknesses until somebody exposes it, and then everybody's going to do it. That's the way this works. Then you can either fix your weakness or you can just be bludgeoned every week by it. I mean, that's just the truth. But I expect a good game Saturday. I mean, Ole Miss being an 11-point favorite over anybody. It'll be back-to-back double-digit favors for Ole Miss. It's crazy. They were favored by 17.5 versus Vanderbilt, favored by 11 versus South Carolina. It's crazy. Now, part of the line change with South Carolina and all that is the fact that they think Will Muschamp is too hard-headed to do the drop 8. He wants to play some man coverage. He wants to play his defense. He wants you to have to adjust to him, not vice versa. He views that as a sign of weakness. And if they do that, Ole Miss has proven they will put up 700 yards on him. So it'll be interesting to watch. But again, hopefully Ole Miss takes over the Alabama LSU game if that game is postponed. I mean, the other options, Georgia, Missouri, no. Vandy, Kentucky, no. Texas A&M, Tennessee, no. Maybe Arkansas and Florida, but Sam Pittman. Arkansas is going through a little bit of stuff right now. And Florida is going to blow that game out. And plus, it's on regular ESPN. If you look at ESPN, it's an SEC day. They have at 11 o'clock, Georgia, Missouri. They're not going to move that. At 2:30 on ESPN is Texas A&M and Tennessee. Not going to move that. And then the night game on ESPN is Arkansas and Florida. They're not going to move that. So you look at the SEC network games, South Carolina at Ole Miss at 6:30, maybe. Vandy and Kentucky, no. Those are the options. The other SEC network game, which I think it's already been moved. I think Arkansas and Florida was an SEC network game. They got moved because of Auburn and Mississippi State. But that's the way we do this. And we get into this with different situations, and flexibility is key. It's absolutely key. Because if you're not flexible, this is going to be like a tough transition for you. So just understand that. We're almost done with this year. Vaccine news came out yesterday. We're probably looking at a few months. They did say on the vaccine, just so you know, whenever it comes out, you're still going to be required to wear a mask. So get your head around that, even with a vaccine. Because at least through 2021, it doesn't sterilize like your nose, so you can aerosol, spit the virus at people. And a little bit of protection from a mask can alleviate it. So, once again, you're wearing a mask for other people, not yourself. You don't think a virus can get yourself sick. It doesn't matter. It can protect other people. Sorry about that. So, that is why I think that should Alabama and LSU get canceled, the Ole Miss South Carolina game should move into that 5 p.m. CBS game, and there should be behind-the-scenes lobbying happening as we speak. When we come back, we're going to start talking a little bit about the Egg Bowl. We're going to start building up to that. We got a couple of weeks. Stephen Willis, POMcast. Stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right, last segment of the day. Thank you for listening to us. Stephen Willis, POMcast. Let's start talking a little bit about the Egg Bowl. I know we have South Carolina this week and we have Texas A&M next week. But in a weird COVID season, we can start talking about the Egg Bowl. I think it's about time. I'm not a player. I'm not looking forward as a player. It just doesn't matter. They're the ones that can't look forward. I can look forward as much as I want to because I'm not playing. So this year's Egg Bowl has the potential to be lopsided. And it has the potential to be lopsided exactly one way. Now, you have a little bit of irresistible force and immovable object on Ole Miss's offense and State's defense, and you have a little bit of resistible force and movable object in State's offense and Ole Miss's defense. So this game could be interesting to see. If they shut down the Ole Miss offense, they have a chance, because it would have to be a pretty low-scoring game for them to win. If it turns into a shootout and they can't stop Ole Miss, it's over. I mean, first drive of the game, it could be over. But it will not be over for the season. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this looks like. Ole Miss after that game has LSU, and State after that game has, I think, Missouri and Auburn. Yeah, game 8 for them. It'll be game 9 for Ole Miss. Because Mississippi State is getting an extra bye week right now. Of course, they're dealing with some stuff, but you know what I mean. Special teams, the punter, I give Ole Miss the advantage. The place kicker, I give Mississippi State the advantage. Kickoffs, about the same. I give Ole Miss the advantage over State's defense. State's offense and Ole Miss's defense is kind of a push at the moment. But we'll just have to see. And the reason I bring this up is State plays, since the Auburn game got postponed, they play exactly one game before they play Ole Miss. It's nuts, isn't it? One game. Of course, that one game is against Georgia. That'll be the lead-in game. Ole Miss gets A&M, so it's 6 and 1, half a dozen of the other. I mean, that'll be the CBS game next week, as we told you. I really like what Isaiah Spiller is doing right now. If this was a normal season, this would be a breakout for him. So I'm kind of looking forward to that game. Once Texas A&M realized that Kevin Mond wasn't their identity, they started to cook. They started to really go. I think this is right. I think this is right. And when Jameis Winston was at Florida State, Dalvin Cook, I think, was also at Florida State. And Dalvin Cook, turns out, was the reason that team was so good and so hard to defend. But I think that's correct. I could be wrong. I'm getting my years wrong, but I think that is right. There was some overlap there. That would have been, let's see, what, 2013, 2014, 2012 maybe? Who knows? Either way, my Florida State football knowledge is lacking. But when dealing with Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M, their offense performs better when you have a running back that you can count on. And Isaiah Spiller is turning into that guy. I mean, it's a very big point. So I'm just really looking forward to this weekend. Ole Miss in South Carolina at 6:30 p.m. on SEC Network. Even if it doesn't get moved, we get Jordan Rodgers and Cole Kubelik and Tom Hart and those guys, and it'll just be really fun to have the SEC Saturday night crew calling the game, even if it doesn't move. But Ole Miss needs to get on, if that game gets canceled, being the alternative game. They need to get on that. They need to do all the back channel stuff that is required. But they need to do that because it will help them out greatly. Now, looking at the week that is going to be, let's see. Like I said, Maction this week. 3 games tonight, 3 games tomorrow. There's a game Thursday. There's a game every night this week. So that's good to see. Top 10 Miami has a game against Vautech. Vautech lost to Liberty last week. And other than that, it doesn't look like there's many just great games this weekend. So we'll enjoy it anyway. Stephen Willis, POMcast. See you tomorrow.